The women's jail at Constitution Hill in Johannesburg is one of South Africa's most hallowed political sites. Its history and heritage are ingrained in the nation's consciousness. It's a place where the words truth and hope resonate powerfully. Truth has become a rare and valued commodity that is increasingly hard to find. eNCA believes it's time to find a way back from the darkness. In this special debate, Truth, Lies and Hope, an all-female panel consisting of former Public Protector Thuli Madonsela, leading jurist and former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Navi Pillay, and student leader and now member of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, Fasia Hassan, will weigh in on the importance of rediscovering truth in our frail democracy.
I think we need to be honest about the failures of the current society and the current government.
We don't have to reinvent the wheel on values. We're not living in a dictatorship, we're in a democracy.
Without the truth, it's impossible to trust those you're going to give power to.
Stand by now for your host, one of South Africa's most respected journalists, Dan Moyane.
In this highly symbolic venue, we are gathering to debate one of the most crucial issues facing our tortured country. We'll talk about the notion of truth in society, and in particular in South Africa, where we increasingly find ourselves spun into a web of lies and deceit by those in government, in business, and in the media. More than ever, we need the truth about the world and our country in order to thrive. So how do we find our way back to truth? Why is truth important in our democracy? And what are the consequences of the absence of truth? How do we regain, for example, the hope and optimism the country felt post-1994? Now, over the next 90 minutes, a rotating panel of prominent South Africans who will share their views of how we can put truth first and at the center of everything we do. And of course, I'm not alone. I've got my colleague, Faith Mangope, who's among the audience. Hi, Faith.
Hi, Dan. And of course, we're looking forward to getting some perspective from civil organizations. We've got a few trade unions joining us as we really interrogate the subject matter of truth and lies. And we're looking forward to have them voice their opinion and give their perspective in terms of exactly where this country is going, and perhaps also our responsibility and accountability where truth lies, and obviously with the aim of inspiring hope in the South African dispensation. So we look forward to an engaging debate. I'm sure that they are all waiting in great anticipation of being able to participate.
Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause for our panelists who are here with us as we get going. Thank you, Faith. I just want to gauge a sense first, just by starting, and also amongst our guests. Is truth important for democracy? Professor?
Absolutely. Truth is extremely important in democracy, because democracy is supposed to be about people's power, but that power people can exercise it collectively or through others. And without the truth, it's impossible to trust those you're going to give power to.
Okay, Fasia?
You know, as a young person, as part of this Born Free so-called group, obviously the answer is yes, but it's about more than just truth. It's about how to discern what is true and what isn't. And that, for me, is a much bigger question.
And nowadays becoming more and more difficult. Judge Pillay?
Well, you know, I come through the common law system, as do all of you, but I served internationally, so there were many clashes, because the civil law system seeks the truth, and the common law system in our courts, we value the truth, of course, but we look for evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. So truth is very important for democracy, because if you can't get the true information, you can access information, but it's not true, how are you going to exercise your right to vote? So it's very basic. And of course, every judicial system in every corner of the world has truth seeking as the foundation for justice systems.
Nowadays, as Fasia was saying, it's becoming a little bit more difficult, I guess, for us to decipher what is true and what is not.
Personally, I actually think that we've always had a problem of deciphering what is true and what is not. It's just become even harder. I mean, democracy, of course, is supposed to be a dialogue between the people among themselves and between their representatives. But it's always been the case, even during Plato's time, to lie to the people, to present what is not true to gain votes. And it's just become endemic now with social media making it easier. Social media has made it easier for us, firstly, to know when we are being told lies, but it's also made it easier for lies to be told.
President Barack Obama of the United States, when he came to the Nelson Mandela Lecture 2018 at the Wanderers, he said, "We politicians lie." There was a famous clip that went viral, but the difference is when we got caught lying, some of us admit to having lied and try and correct our ways, but others don't. So it looks like lies and politics goes hand in hand. Judge, am I wrong?
There's definitely that perception that politicians lie and you can't rely on them. And where does that perception come from? The behavior and words of politicians themselves. You know, we had a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. You see, so when we emerged out of apartheid, the South African population wanted to know the truth about what happened, the maxi picture, as well as what happened to their relatives. So here we are very conscious of a moral obligation to speak the truth. Certainly there is a legal obligation on political leaders to speak the truth, but we have to remind them they have a moral obligation as well.
Moral obligation, that means, in your view, it's very important for us in our democracy to tell the truth. During the Fees Must Fall campaign, for example, many things were said and promised. When you look back, do you think some of it must have been lies?
You know, it's an interesting thing because I feel like I'm on the other side of the table at many times. And I think there were many things that were said to quell tensions and to try and, I think, manage a situation. But I want to make a slightly different point about Fees Must Fall, about social media, about disinformation. For me, social media has really changed the game. That and technology. It's changed the game in terms of not just media, not just political work, not just the legal system, but it also needs to change how we interact with information. And one of the things we saw during Fees Must Fall was a lot of fake news. And we've seen it very recently also with the xenophobic attacks. So people taking these doctored pictures or even just false or very previous kinds of videos and pictures, etc., and sending them as if they're happening now. And what's been successfully done is like a mob mentality that's been created. And in many ways, that's been harnessed through social media. So for me, it's a double-edged sword because during Fees Must Fall, we were able to get our image and our voice and our message across much faster. But at the same time, there would be voice recordings going around of people claiming to attack students if they come on campus. And that was never something we ever did or ever endorsed, for example. But those were things that were going around in the name of Fees Must Fall. And so it presents an interesting challenge. How do you balance your activism and your need to get your word across, to get your message across, while at the same time maintaining the integrity of that message? Because we can't control what people consume, right? People are consuming so much information all the time. We can package some of it, but we really need to think differently now about how we interact and engage with that kind of information.
I think we'll explore a little bit of that later on, about how digital media has an impact on democracy, as we've seen elsewhere in the world, not just in South Africa. Think about the American elections and how the Donald Trump campaign used Facebook and stuff to target undecided voters. And when we continue, we'll be joined by Mr. Mavuso Msimang, a struggle stalwart, who will participate with us now as we go to the next stage. We talk about why it's important not to lie in politics and truth in our politics currently, how much we need it and why it's important.
Ethics and truth go hand in hand.
Politicians don't jump unless they know there's going to be consequences.
When hate speech and propaganda and corruption are the activities of leaders, unfortunately, it permeates right through.